So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel for video number 4 and the last upload for the day, or what should be, what's scheduled to be the last upload of the day. Might be different, might be another late night drama sort of situation where we have to force our hand to push out content, maybe even a fifth video, depends what happens. And this is basically the fourth pre-recorded of the day. I've done the 3 previous before now. But if there is something worth covering, it's probably one of those where I'll just record it at the time and then just upload it on the spot. And yeah, Jesus, what I've done. But imagine if a day just explodes, right? And there's just tons and tons of new breaking content left, right, center, and all of that. And I end up uploading like 10, 20 videos in one single day. Well, I do a T series and upload just endless amounts of videos in just one singular day. Maybe I just do that. But then again, I'll probably burn myself out and go crashing and burning and look like a complete waste of a man at the end of it all. But this video, the subject of this video is Hannibal Mejbri to Dortmund. Hannibal Mejbri to Dortmund. Apparently, this has literally just come into the pipeline, so there's not much to discuss yet. But because it's something that Fabrizio, I think it's Fabrizio that's, Fabrizio's basically reported on it. No concrete information on that yet, but once something starts, and I can imagine, because Mejbri is probably another one of the players, despite being on loan or having a relatively good loan at Birmingham City last season, probably not going to be in the picture for the first team squad for next season. So probably going to be likely that he's going to be moving away. As for the other bit in this video as well, the second part of this video is basically Dimitar Berbatov is coming out and talking about expectations for Manchester United going into next season based off of the season we've just had. And some people are saying, oh, it's unrealistic, it's not realistic, it's not about what's realistic. It's about he's underlying where we should be. He's underlying where we should be. And I'm going to go into depth with that. I'm going to cover basically all of what he had said, or most, as much as there is that I can access, basically, and what he said. So we'll cover that. We'll cover that in a moment. But yeah, Hannibal Mejbri, not a concrete target for Borussia Dortmund at this stage. MEFC are, however, open to discuss his future. Now, is it a case with Hannibal Mejbri that you are loaning him again for another season, or is it too little too late for him, time to go? Personally, there was another report that I'd seen that, on my Twitter feed. I don't even know where on earth it's gone, but apparently Ten Hag has stated, or people had reported on Ten Hag's behalf, that Ten Hag wants and demands excellency. And if these players don't have, a world-class level of potential in them, or, don't have they don't have that sort of a trajectory to them that shows great promise, then you're not going to make it in this team. So based off of last season, something tells me that based off of last season, with how many players we had sent out on loan and how little amount of players on the youth level were getting opportunities in the first team, says to me that we have overestimated our academy, that we've completely, we've just missed the mark. We've done on Arsenal, we've hyped this academy up to astronomical levels, when in actuality the professionals in the game take a look at that academy and say, well, actually, they look good on the surface, but deep their game a bit more, they're not actually that good. So is it more the case that Garnacho is the only player, really, that went into the first team and has basically stayed there and is basically being put on the pedestal? Because it's probably the only one. It's the only one in the academy that's actually, got the promise to him. So that that in and of itself it looks like a problem, especially for the future of United's academy. But it depends really what happens going into the next season, whether we start to see some other names making it onto the bench and actually starting games in some rotation, or in some fixtures where we need to rotate. Because I know with the season right the way throughout, it's quite demanding physically and mentally. So if someone's that good enough, they're going to start games for us, academy or not, prospect or not. And if we're in a position where we're seeing players like, I think another name that we had, I can't remember, is the Kobe Mino. I think is the other academy prospect player that has played probably the second most amount of minutes, which I think says it all, because I barely remember what games it was that he's played in. I think it's like 2 games that he's played in the first team, and I think both of those were starting from the bench. So not a huge amount of opportunities there, but I think depends on whether that's part of his progression plan, whether next season you see more of Kobe Minu and names like that starting to feature a bit more. Because I don't know if it's the case with Erik ten Hag that he's very, he's straight to the youth academy and he's just like, yeah, up you come, up you come, up you come, up you come. In the first season, I probably wouldn't want to say that that's what his plan would be, because I think if he's playing his cards right, he's putting out feelers for the academy players and then just introducing them over time. And that, I think, is probably the best way to handle the integration of your youth players into the first team picture. But I mean, I'm not Erik ten Hag. I don't have his level of footballing ingenuity. I don't have the IQ, footballing IQ that he has. I don't have the same talent ID. My talent ID's in the mud. I just see a player. I think, do I know him? Yes or no? And if he's someone that I know, then I'll say, oh yeah, whether I rate him or not, whether he's a thumbs up or he's the thumbs down. It's just one of those cases. And I think with Hannibal Mejbri, for me, as someone as a player that I know that's been around the squad, 1 to 2 years now, that I think he's not showing the promise that I think Ten Hag wants to see from him. So it's looking more likely that he's going to be another departure out the door. Now, in terms of the interest that's being shown in Mejbri, if it's the club that wants him to be loaned out or sold, I haven't seen what the priority is in that, what the intention is. So I think it's just one of those things. We'll have to wait and see what the club do decide on, because apparently they are still in the process of discussing his future. But if Dortmund are linked to him, I think Dortmund are another one of those clubs that are basically, they just take in young talent, breed them to be better quality players, and then they sell them on. Dortmund's a selling club. They haven't got the ambition to go win trophies and stuff, because if they had that ambition, I don't think Hannibal Mejbri is a Dortmund target. So yeah, basically offloading to Dortmund and go do what you want with Hannibal Mejbri. I don't know. I think it's just one of those things. But we move on to the second part of the video. The second part is Dimitar Berbatov has been speaking to Betfred, allegedly. Yeah. So, what has Dimitar Berbatov been saying? Let's scroll. I'm just trying to see if I can put as much of this together as possible. I think there's 3 here. Yeah, I think there's only 3 here. But basically, I'll read out what's being reported by what Dimitar Berbatov has said. United need to be City's biggest rivals next season because Erik ten Hag is now fully knowledgeable about everything what that's going on at the club, and his debut season is now over. Yep, there you go. So straight away, straight to the point. Once you're here, your feeler season is done. Now the priority shifts, the focus shifts, the expectation from the fan base has to shift, has to change, has to increase. Next up on here, he says Erik ten Hag's expectation, the club's expectation, and the fans' expectation should be to win the Premier League title next season. Thank God we have someone who is bred on actual success and not someone who is a PR merchant and Ian Wright and people like Martin Keown. Thank God we've got someone like Dimitar Berbatov. Of course, it's going to be tough with what Man City have done this year, but United's motivation should be to stop their domination. And look, it's probably one of those things you have to play into the emotions and the feelings of the United squad and basically use the way that fans and other members of the club and past legends of the club and based off their emotions and use them as that's your squad's reflection right there. What they feel is how you should feel, and if people are pissed off that Man City have been able to walk their way to a treble plus beating United in an FA Cup final to do it, right? That's basically burying half of their it's burying half of their legacy. The only other half that's not buried yet is the fact that they were the first ones to do it back in 98, 99. And that's the thing. People might say, oh, well, we don't care because, it's Manchester City. Oh, I've forgotten about it already. It's so insignificant. But it's just like the fact is it's on the history books now. That's not going to change it. People will look back in the history books and say, well, Manchester City, they're massive now, but I didn't know that they did the treble back then. Especially for people who are coming into the sport, who are new to the sport, they look back at the history books. They're not really going to look back and see that, well, they'll say, well, Man United used to be successful, but Manchester City are successful now, so they've got to be like the greatest team in history, right? Because they've done all of these phenomenal achievements in the recent times. Manchester United should be putting an end to this legacy before it really begins by aspiring to be the nearest competitors to Manchester City and winning the trophies on the same regularity that they do. And that's not a negotiable for a club at this level. As that's a non-negotiable. Winning trophies. Look at the way that the fan bases behave with the Barcelona camp, with the Real Madrid camp, with some of the clubs in Italy, with the way that French PSG fans behave, the Bayern fans behave. Look at their behaviours in retrospect to what their club's aspirations are compared to what they actually achieve, and then how the club operates in reaction to what it is that goes on during the season. So if a run of form ends up becoming, it stagnates, like straight away the manager's on the chopping block like that. Like there's no waiting or, oh, we back our manager, we believe in him. If you're not achieving success now, and if your trajectory with where you're headed this season is not going to result in us winning a trophy, goodbye. Off you go. Best of luck in your future endeavours. That is it. But one thing that some clubs like Man United don't do, like Arsenal haven't done, and like Tottenham don't do, or some other clubs in this country don't do, is when your club is in a position where you can win trophies, if you're not serious about winning trophies, and this is the thing, is this goes up to their board levels as well. And this is why when you get other people calling this sort of situation out, I mean, as a prime example, is probably the loudest in this respect is Arsenal's Lee Gunner, right? He is like Lee Gunner for Arsenal, Rance and Saeed for United, as well as me. Even though I'm not really anybody significant, I'm literally just put a bloke on the internet voicing his opinion. And Tottenham with Henry Wright, Sava talks football. People like this, and I'm sure there's a whole host of other names that I've not mentioned, but it's important that then the responsibility, if the club feels comfortable with not delivering the fans' expectations, that the fans don't feel the compromise to the club. You shouldn't be compromised to the club. You shouldn't give up your ambitions because the club wants to dumb you down. You shouldn't give that up. You should stand your ground and keep battering their eardrums with your demands of expectations and say, I want the Premier League title, I want the FA Cup, I want the Champions League, Europa League, whatever European competition it is you're in. Whatever competition, at the start of the season, if you are in a competition, push your goddamn hardest to win that competition. And this is the thing. For anyone who's saying, well, if you're a smaller club, it's not realistic that you expect to win trophies, regardless of whether it's realistic or not. The matter of the fact stays the same, that your ambition is to push for the best for your club, right? The ambition. It's just about the ambition. Forget anything about saying, well, you've got to look at the graphs of your squad versus this other bigger club squad. I'll look at how much more expensive their squad is and things like that. And it's like, I think I've covered it in a stream where I spoke about Brighton being a prime example of this. Are you happy with just playing some good football and beating a few teams here and there? Why can't you say, cool, we play good football, use that good football to win a trophy and keep that level there? Because then your club then starts to react to that and starts to see, well, cool, we're playing good football, but the pressure's not going away for us to deliver on this good football. Deliver on this good football. Don't just win games against a few good teams in the league. Win games against some of the good teams in key moments of the season, in your semi-finals, the finals, and pushing for important positions for your club's progression in the league. So if you are a club that doesn't usually qualify for Champions League or Europa League, don't sit there and celebrate, yay, we're in Champions League. Just say, cool, we're in Champions League. Now, owners, now board, we're in a progressive position. Now progress the club. Now expand the ambition of the club. Because we vocalize your actions. We respond to your actions. That's the point of a fan base. That's the point of you supporting something, is you vocalize your support or your disdain. And if you are happy, let them know. If you are angry, let them know. That's the God-given rights for fan bases and the fans in said fan bases, that you shouldn't be, if something is not acceptable to you, should not be happy if a club is getting away with it, if you're just sitting there and not actually saying anything about the situation. There was one more bit that he said, that Dimitar Berbatov said, you should only look to sign a player that's capable of playing in the Erik ten Hag system, because Manchester United need to challenge for the Premier League title next season. Thank you, and do much better in the Champions League than they did last time. Exactly, 100%. Well, that's the thing, and this is why this fan base needs to be wary about the board not supporting this manager a whole heck of a lot more than some of them would care to admit. There should be riots, there should be outrage. That if Harry Kane doesn't sign, riot about it. If Declan Rice doesn't sign, riot about it. If Mason Mount, if that's a player he wants and he doesn't come, riot about it. and right in your own way. You don't have to go around smashing up half of Manchester because that's just criminal activity. But where you have a platform, use it. Use it and vocalize whether you're happy with what you're seeing or whether you are genuinely angry. And this is the thing, where your expectation lies should be solely for what the best outcome for your club is. And if you're sitting here and you're saying, well, I'm okay with United not winning the league title, straight away, the very foundation that your club is built upon is buried. Manchester United, forget Manchester United. It's just you might as well call them what Pez used to call Manchester United. Call them Man Red, Manchester Red. Just call us that, because the legacy that put us on the map to begin with is no longer important to the fan base because everyone's okay with not winning a league title. And do your best not to hide behind this thing of realism. Try not to hide behind that, because what it is if they underachieve, they will say, well, look at how far away we are from achieving our goals. It's not realistic for us to compete, but then they don't do anything to make it realistic that you can claw it back and put yourself back in that position. And that's the thing. Be a proactive club and be a proactive board. Back your managers, sign the players he wants, and actually be proactive in and be serious in pushing towards the very pinnacle of this sport. And the fan base should be vocalizing that same demand. Because if everyone does that, then the competition increases tenfold. But more importantly, is football becomes all about the pride of success. And no one, absolutely no one, sits there and starts celebrating things that don't warrant you lifting a trophy. Like, imagine that. Wouldn't you just like to be able to go to a trophy parade that your club's won a trophy uh, at the end of the season? I don't even know if Man United did a trophy parade for the Carabao Cup. I don't think they did. I think literally Eric said, well, no, celebrate it for one night and then you're training the very next morning. So we literally celebrated the Carabao Cup for a night, for a single night, because we don't want to sit there and say, oh, well, that's okay, we've won a trophy now, we'll just kick back and relax now. Like, no, now you go win more trophies. That's the expectation. That's the expectation. That should be the demand. And you have to back, you have to push for your club to back your manager in actually being able to achieve that. Now, if the manager gets backed and doesn't do a good job, you should be climbing over the masses to be the first in line to say, I want change. You should. You should be the first one in line to say, I want change because this manager isn't good enough. But the problem is with United, these managers don't get the right backing. And this is the thing, you can be convinced that these managers don't get the right backing. Gone on for 23 minutes. It's gone on for a little bit longer, but this is important. This is important to discuss. Now, whether you guys agree, guys and girls agree with that, or whether you disagree, whether you believe in football being about different things. For me, it's like it's funny to me because, just to use as an example of some of the biggest contradiction, and one of the biggest contradictions in the Premier League is Tottenham Hotspur. In their stadium, you see the banners around the different tier stands where it says the game is about glory. What glory do Tottenham aspire to have? Like, seriously, if your game is not about glory, if your ambition is not to be glorious and to be successful, take those banners down. Take them down. Because you can't acclaim to be ambitious to win titles and then not be ambitious. You'd be two-faced. And, you know, if you're two-faced, you lose credibility. So you have to be consistent. You know, pick your lane and stick in it. Pick your lane and stick in it. And don't try and start rubbing people up the wrong way by, you know, saying one thing, meaning something else. But then when something doesn't favour you, oh, well, you just flip over the other side. You're being a flip-flop. Little flippy floppy fish out of water. But it's pivotal, much more than a lot of people actually care to acknowledge. It's much more pivotal in the elite level of football than people care to acknowledge. Imagine if there was a protest with Real Madrid that was all about Carlo Ancelotti out. I know that you see a lot of comments in reactions to the medias for Real Madrid, where you see a lot of people say, "Well, Ancelotti out, we didn't win the Liga, and we didn't win Champions League." So you get that. Imagine, like, if the fans protested, if they actually felt that badly about their manager and they protested outside the Bernabeu, do you really think that Carlo Ancelotti would still be the manager right now? Because Florentino Perez would see that and would say, I'll be doing a disservice to this fan base if I don't act on what their demand is. Because their demand is without question. They want success and nothing more, nothing less. Just success. And it doesn't matter what I say, because, God, if I came out and said, look, Carlo Ancelotti, he's staying because I believe he can do great things for us. Oh my God, that fan base would be going and finding where Florentino Perez lives. They'll be lighting torches and they'll be coming with pitchforks. Seriously. They'll be going for his head. But that's the thing. That's the power that a fan base has, and it shouldn't be understated. But that's the thing. A power that a fan base has, you need to work as a collective. Now, the problem with this country is that this British FA and whatnot, or the Premier League's association, would literally any form of protest, like people getting stadium bans for lighting pyrotechnics outside of Old Trafford. People getting 3-year stadium bans. This country is really, really soft. The associations, the governing bodies of this league and some of these clubs are so soft. But imagine, right, if hundreds of thousands of Man United fans were to absolutely just ransack right the way throughout Old Trafford, right, and ransack to Carrington, a protest so big that even non-sport related medias are covering it. Imagine how there wouldn't be little action. There wouldn't be no action. Something would happen if everyone was just, you know, torches, pitchforks, all of that, calling for Richard Arnold's head. Do you reckon Richard Arnold's not going to, his job's not going to be at risk? Because everyone, the collective fan base, is all pushing in one direction with a singular agenda. That's just the way it is. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. If you think I'm being too harsh, or if you think I'm just upkeeping with standards. I know Dimitar Berbatov is trying to upkeep the high standards that Sir Alex Ferguson, set at this club. And this is the thing, don't forget it. Whether you want to blame Sir Alex Ferguson for the Glazers being here, I do blame Sir Alex Ferguson for the Glazers being here. But, aside from ownership, he set the standards for success and that we shouldn't accept anything less. But the second he leaves, everyone's just like, oh, it doesn't matter now. Doesn't matter, Oh, we can go a couple years without winning trophies. You shouldn't. You absolutely shouldn't. You absolutely should not. But let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the video, smash up the likes, hit the subscribe, Turn your notification bell on for other content releases if and when they do come out. This should be the last day, last video of the day, not the last day. Jesus Christ. Maybe someone is going to murder me tomorrow and I can't make any more videos. But if you guys do enjoy, do remember, smash the like button, hit subscription, turn notification bell on. And yeah, that's me checking out for the day. And we'll see y'all again real soon. Goodbye.